Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, I'm going to be doing a bit of a fun and different hypnosis session inspired by the timing as I record this. It's the day before Halloween. So as I came into my studio, I'm seeing some houses dressed with cobwebs and witches and pumpkins outside and that kind of stuff. And I thought there is particularly in countries like the United States, the UK, many other countries in the world, a fascination with, let's say, scary things. And I think the fascination comes from the point of view that if we can have fun with those things that are scary, then somehow we can be empowered and control, our emotions in a more useful way. So if you listen to the show on a regular basis, you'll know that occasionally I do random hypnosis sessions that have a different location, random words, random emotions. And I thought, well, if I took the randomness out of the equation and actually started thinking, well, what would be the ideal destination, let's say, for a Halloween-themed hypnosis session? Transylvania seems the obvious place. A beautiful part of the world, but linked to things like Dracula and kind of old castles and things like that. So that's going to be the location. The three nouns that we're going to utilize are not random. I've just chosen them because I feel like they can link into the essence of a Halloween-themed hypnosis session. Monster, nightmare, and mask. So monster, in the literal sense, would be something big, bad, and dangerous. In the metaphorical sense, a monster is often used to describe anything undesirable or anything that can have unforeseen consequences. And the way I think of a monster, metaphorically speaking, is that if you think of any horror movie, in good horror movies, the monster is implied. You create a sense of suspense, but when you actually see the monster, quite often, because you've actually been able to now know what it is, it doesn't seem so scary in comparison. And you see this with children that are, having nightmares that there might be a monster under the bed. That fear can only exist while they don't look. Okay, and there is a paradox there because they don't want to look because they think there's a monster under the bed, but by not looking, the imaginary monster stays under the bed. So we're going to use this noun of monster. Nightmare is another phrase. Quite often people will use the phrase, I'm having a nightmare, this is a nightmare for me, basically meaning a very bad part of their life. It's undesirable in some ways. So we're going to, again, do what people do in Halloween, and this is define these things and then take them and have them work for us rather than against us, make it empowering, make it fun, make it lighthearted. And mask. And mask, in a Halloween sense, is quite often pretending to be someone that you're not. So having let's say a devil's mask or something else. But we all wear masks in different ways. We have different alter egos, different ways of presenting ourselves to the world. So I thought, again, we can kind of play with this concept of a mask in this hypnosis session. And then instead of doing 2 emotions, I thought I would do 3 emotions in this particular session. And these 3 emotions are fear, which is obviously linked to the idea of Halloween, terror, which is an enhanced version of fear, it's an amplification, and torment. And torment, a lot of people feel tormented And as a hypnotist, I'm very aware of the language and therefore the internal representation of that language. And to feel tormented means that the locus of control is placed outside of the individual. It's something that's happening to them rather than something they're creating in and of themselves. So again, we're going to play with these concepts to create a hypnosis session. And I'll be honest, this is not scripted. I'm using these words to create a hypnosis session in real time, like I do with the randomly generated ones. I've just chosen the themes and I'm going to see where it goes. But I will also be having different music that is a little bit, let's say, darker. So if you're not really into this kind of stuff and you don't really celebrate Halloween, I would say probably don't listen to this hypnosis session. But if you can enjoy Halloween, you like watching horror movies, you have fun with these concepts, this might be an interesting hypnosis session for you. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, become aware of any feelings of stress, tension, anxiety in your body. If you're ready to go on a hypnotic adventure, and it's safe to do so, close your eyes. And in closing your eyes, just get a sense that the biggest fear is always the fear of the unknown. And sometimes when we face our fears, we're able to unlock powerful new resources in ourselves that can enable us to transform our lives in strange and interesting and perhaps even positive ways. Continue to breathe in and breathe out, as it's now time to relax. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to create as much tension as you can in your body right now. Clench the teeth and your jaw. Clench your fists. Scrunch your forehead. And create as much tension as possible. Flex the muscles in your arms and your legs, creating as much tension as you can. As you breathe in, I want you to breathe in a sense that you're about to release this tension. And then on the outward breath, let go. And as you let go, notice just how much of that tension is being released. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. And notice that with each and every breath, you're able to go deeper and deeper, relaxed. And I wonder how powerful it could be to go on a hypnotic journey where you face your fears. In many ways, fear is like the shadows, and action is like a candle or a torch. And simply by taking action towards your fears, don't be surprised if those fears just entirely disappear. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, I wonder what would happen if you activated the power of your imagination to imagine that you were traveling somewhere else. I want you to imagine that you can picture in your mind an old castle, perhaps on a hill or the side of a mountain in old Transylvania. Maybe you've seen pictures of those old historical castles in Eastern Europe. This is an old castle in a state of disrepair, broken windows, cold, in ruins perhaps. And I want you to imagine that you're arriving in Transylvania just as the sun is starting to set. Imagine walking up a pathway towards this old, ruined castle. And as you arrive at the castle door, just imagine it's now dark. And all you have is a candle, a flickering candle that just gives enough light for you to see the immediate vicinity around you. It's dark and you have nowhere to stay, so you decide that this castle is the only place of shelter. I want you to imagine holding a candle in one hand and walking through an old door into this ruined castle. And I want you to get a sense that this castle is designed for you to face fears from a place of safety. I want you to imagine that there is a large bubble. I want you to imagine walking into that bubble and seeing this bubble as being almost like a shield for you. This bubble can float, you can move around, you can see through the bubble, but it is like a force field. It's impenetrable to anything and anyone outside, and therefore it enables you to safely face your fears. Imagine there are many rooms in this castle, and I want you to first imagine going back to something that used to cause fear in your childhood. Not a person, but a thing. That thing might be an idea. It might be an old scary picture or a doll. But I want you to imagine that that fear exists in one of these rooms, but you are safely protected in this force field bubble. You have a candle in your hand so you can see and emit light from this bubble. Imagine floating into that room and seeing whatever was a source of fear in your childhood. Except this is just in your imagination. There is nothing real here. And we're going to use a process of playfulness to change anything that you feared as a child. And it may be that you don't even fear this thing anymore, but the goal here is to have fun playing with the concept of fear. In this room, in this old castle, you're now seeing something that you used to fear as a child, safely from your bubble, seeing it through the light emitted from the candle. And then I want you to use the power of your creativity, your imagination, to change this source of fear. If this thing you imagined having a scary voice, imagine changing the voice so it becomes squeaky or silly. Perhaps you can imagine, if it's a moving thing, that changing the feet for something like roller skates. Perhaps it's an idea and you can just splash colour into this idea. And I want you to use the creative, playful part of your mind to play with the concept of this thing that used to cause fear. Keep changing it. Change the voice, the colours. If it's moving, change the clothes. Make it smaller if you want, the size of a kitten or even smaller. Play around with it until this thing becomes harmless and ridiculous. And in doing so, you're able to reclaim a childhood source of fear and maybe even terror. I want you to get a sense that all fear is designed to protect. And many people try and protect themselves from fear by avoiding the source of fear. But what if that propagates a belief, a myth that this thing truly is to be feared? The human brain struggles to differentiate between a genuine threat and a source of danger to something that is perceived to be a source of danger. I want you to get a sense that that creative, playful part of your mind is continuing to adjust whatever those childhood sources of fear were until they're completely neutral, or perhaps even make you smile or laugh. And at the point where you start smiling and laughing, I want you to see that this original source of fear just disappears into dust. It is, of course, just your imagination. And therefore, you can imagine this thing completely and totally disappearing. I want you to imagine floating in your bubble to a different room in this castle. And in this room will be a monster. I want you to imagine the most terrifying representation of what a monster will be, knowing that you're safely protected in your bubble. What would that terrifying monster be? How many arms or legs would it need? How big would it need to be? What teeth would it have? What would it look like? And you can draw references from any horror movie, any myths, stories that you were told as a child, characters from movies. It doesn't matter, but I want you to imagine that in this room is the most terrifying monster for you. And notice that you still feel safe in this bubble. You're able to observe it. You can see the monster, but the monster can't see you. You are invisible inside this bubble. You are safe inside this bubble. But you can see the monster. And I want you to accept the suggestion that this monster is just your imagination creating a representation of whatever is a source of fear for you. The monster may represent doubts in your own abilities. The monster may represent anxiety about the future. The monster may represent an old memory, or perhaps some unresolved issue. And I want you to imagine that you're making this monster the most scary monster it could be. And then I want you to imagine from inside this bubble that you are taming this monster. I want you to imagine you're taming this monster, first of all, by understanding this monster. Sometimes the things we do are from a place of misunderstanding. And just imagine that as you understand this monster more, already the monster starts to look less scary. I want you to feel where courage would be in your body. And as you have the courage to look into the eyes of this monster, again notice that the shape of the monster starts to soften. Maybe the size starts to shrink. And maybe this monster is starting to look less and less scary. Quite often, the monsters in our lives come from our imagination. And when we look at them, when we get close to them, when we understand where they came from, and perhaps even what their intentions are, don't be surprised if the most terrifying things start to seem less terrifying. And I want you to imagine that you have a magic power to turn this monster into an ally. Imagine that this monster has been tormenting you, creating fear in you for a long time, and now, with this magic power, I want you to imagine that this source of fear and torment is now an ally for you. There are many people in life that, when they face their biggest fear starts to serve them rather than haunt them. And what would that be like for you? What would it be like to have your biggest fear, the biggest monster, the biggest nightmare for you actually being a source of inspiration, power, motivation? There are people that the biggest monster for them was being seen by people that they knew. Biggest monster was the fear of failing, the fear of not fitting in, the fear of disappointing those people they love the most. As you understand it, you face it, you go through it. What if this thing that's been holding you back could push you forward? What if this monster that's been stalking you your whole life could actually be a source of strength, a guard dog to protect you, a bodyguard to keep you safe? I want you to consider an idea that if you can face your biggest fear, if you can get beyond your biggest monster and nightmare, doesn't it stand to reason that nothing can then stop you? If fear is the border of your limitations, then going beyond your fears means that you've expanded your limitations. There are more options, more choices, more flexibility in your life. Imagine that you have tamed this monster. See it sleeping, perhaps in the corner of that room, like a a big old dog. And then we're going to leave this room and enter one final room. And in this room is a table with different masks. These masks are the masks that you wear when you're around different people. Different people have different ideas about who you are, and perhaps in some places, in some environments, you pretend to be someone you're not. You wear a mask, an alter ego, a projection of you that isn't quite you. And at some level, isn't it possible that the reason that you wear that mask is to protect you from being seen as who you really are? If anyone criticizes the version of you when wearing a mask, it's not really you, it's the mask that they're criticizing. If you're wearing a mask and you get rejected, doesn't it make you safe? Because it was never you that was being rejected, it was the mask. And I wonder what would happen if you didn't feel the need to wear these masks anymore. What would happen if it was possible for you to be yourself in any situation? Wearing a mask might feel like it protects you, but it also means that while you can't be rejected in the same way, you can't get the compliments, the respect, the acknowledgement in the same way. As you put down the mask, I want you to imagine there are people in this room that perhaps have never seen the real you. And I want you to imagine talking to them as the real you. Any fear, any idea of power that they have, just take it all away. This is just your imagination after all. And imagine that you can be around these people as you really are. And as you do so, notice that you feel more comfortable in your own skin. You've faced your childhood fears. You've tamed your monster. And now, in this old castle in Transylvania, it's time to put down those masks. And as you put them down, and you connect with real people, you finally realize that authenticity, vulnerability, these are the antidote to fear and torment. This is a feedback loop for you to form powerful connections, or to have the feedback loop that enables you to change, to evolve, to get better, become more of an enhanced version of who you really are. And notice that although uncomfortable at first, when you get used to having those conversations as who you really are without any need for the mask, don't you notice how less anxious you are, how less stressed you are? Many people carry a fear that they can't be who they really want to be because they'll be rejected, ostracized. For many people, our greatest fear is losing the love, respect, connection with people that they think are meant to love them. But consider this. Do you really need the love, admiration, or respect of people that wouldn't like you for who you really are anyway? As you put down the masks, as you have the conversations as you really are, I want you to get a sense that courage, inner strength, inner confidence is able to flourish in this environment. It's now time to leave this room. Imagine going back down to the doorway of this castle, leaving the bubble, knowing that you faced a fear, tamed a monster, and let go of the masks. And in doing so, you have more influence over what causes fear and terror and torment to you. As you leave, even though it might be dark in Transylvania, you feel fearless, you feel confident, you feel resourceful, until you walk all the way down back into the main town and then find yourself listening to my voice firmly in the present, back in your own body, having gone on a hypnotic adventure in a land of fear and terror, and came out stronger, more authentic and more resourceful for it. Back in your own body, all firmly in the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. As it's now time for me to count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken feeling confident, resourceful, looking forward to being more of who you really are. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.